Welcome to the Tech Channel podcast channel. Thank you for listening and subscribe through Apple Podcasts to continue listening, Spotify, or whichever service you're on. And thank you for listening. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, listeners. Today, I'm going to go into depth about King Lear and many topics inside of it. To start, we're going to talk about just what's going on with the social problems that are similar to many of other Shakespearean comedies such as King Lear, Midsummer's Night, and tragedies such as Hamlet, Macbeth, and Romeo and Juliet. Today, I'll go into the specifics of how homelessness and poverty, as well as mental health, illness, and trauma, are found in one of Shakespeare's most prominent plays, King Lear. Throughout the course of reading this play, I have found that there are so many connections to problems we continue to face in society. For example, in Act 3, Scene 2, Lear's view on homeless people, Lear being the king in this play, really shows that he didn't care for the people at the beginning. But after realizing how they're treated by him, he doesn't realize just how much he impacted others before he became homeless himself, and he gave up control of his kingdom. And that really helped him to change his view. Lear's change in heart is like how modern democratized countries and territories have changed their views on how we incriminate homeless drug abusers and how we remove penalties to ensure that homeless individuals as well as drug abusers come forward for support. By changing the ways we react to individuals with mental health problems and drug abuse, we can help fix the root causes of homelessness and ensure that in the future we'll actually reduce our crime rates. In modern days, we continue to have problems with inequality within homelessness and poverty, which is still shown across the world. It also calls into action the idea that we need to support people who cannot afford to live in our modern society. We really need to take time to evaluate on our approach of helping the homeless and reducing poverty in our society. In King Lear, you can see how Lear's treatment of poor people reflects on his kingdom. It also makes it easier for his daughters to take over the kingdom. This is similar to how Putin and Xi Jinping and how they lead. Right now, they're very scared of how the next generation might take control of their role, and is the reason why I believe that they're controlling people so much at this point. In Act 1, there are many signs of mental illness that was the main reason that Lear gave up control of his kingdom. In that act, we can see that his daughters, Cordelia and Goneril, are manipulative of his problems and his mental state, despite him treating others in a horrendous way, which is caused by his Alzheimer's disease, which is suspected. We can compare this to how family members of individuals in the public with mental health problems quite frequently make decisions for their family member that only benefits them and significantly hurts the individual. It also begs into question as to how we support individuals with mental health problems when they hold significant positions in governments and companies. In Act 4, trauma based on decisions that were taken is shown to impact the way that Lear, Gloucester, and many others have survived. It also shows how they are treated. It also shows that family problems have caused the bulk of the issues within the text, which is similar to the Montagues and the Capulets in Romeo and Juliet, which is where Shakespeare's family has conflicts that cause serious problems for generations to follow, despite them being a byproduct of the problem. When looking at Kent throughout the play of King Lear and seeing how he reacts to people that are homeless, we can see that Lear's original opinion and influence really affects the way that he responds to people that are homeless. And we can continue to see, same as in politics today, that people at a lower level always try to do things to get to a higher level. For example, he thinks that he'll get to a more senior role in the future. This also shows how manipulative people can get to get what they want. In essence, in society, we can continue to find corruption within politics and business. For example, the number of politicians who have given improper contracts and funds, such as former mayor of New Orleans, Ray Nagin Jr., who took advantage of the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. We've also seen multiple points in local politics in Hamilton, Ontario, that we continue to have multiple politicians that will do things simply to get what they want. Or in the case of school boards, we have trustees that at times will do what serves them better instead of what serves the population better. This is simply so then at the end of the day, they're doing what benefits them. I think that you can really see from these societies that maybe the way we deal with corruption and manipulation maybe needs to change as well. For example, maybe we need to have stronger practices in place to ensure that people won't be able to take advantage of the system. We also need to reflect on how in our society and even in our own lives, maybe we need to figure out ways to protect individuals. For example, in schools, maybe we need to have more authority in ensuring that students, staff, and board members are all following the same procedures, and that we have an open process to allow people to report problems. Finally, we really also need to look back at homelessness to kind of see that maybe the way we're dealing with shelters and providing care options for people is a problem, because we really need to figure out how we can allocate funds in a more sustainable way to ensure that for generations to come, we'll be able to support individuals in need, because we don't want people on the streets. We don't want our country to be a first world country, which we are, which is a very good thing. But we want to make sure that since we're a first world country, that we're supporting our people inside of our country, not making it seem like they're living in a third world country, as we can kind of see with some of the housing shelters. Even when there are shelters, the housing conditions are far from what the average person would be okay with. We really also need to figure out how we can continue to open more affordable housing locations to really support others as well. Overall, I believe that with many changes to the system, that there is a way out. And while it might be more costly in the interim, I believe that supporting individuals will actually become cheaper at the end of the day, because it will reduce the strain on our health sector. It'll also allow, hopefully, for more people to get into the job sector, which will in case also reduce the amount of people that are using welfare and other programs that continue to tax on our government. It also allows us to recognize that we need to also protect our seniors and children, as those vulnerable populations, in many cases, people either cannot work at those ages, or there's many other barriers that would not allow them to. As well, I believe that everyone should have the opportunity at one point to be able to retire and to have a safe home, drinking water, and also a bit of flexibility in their lives. That's just my view, but realistically, I think there's so much more we can do. And we can go back to the way that corruption in King Lear is shown when Cordelia and Goneril, they basically destroy the kingdom. They really caused more bad than good. They continued to add more strains to the system. They actually imprisoned parents, and we had a whole bunch of people just killing each other because it was chaos in the society. We don't want those kinds of things to happen in Canada, and we can prevent them before we're at that point. Which begs into the question, how many of the problems in King Lear are actually still relevant today? Quite a few. But I think that we kind of covered it with corruption, inside of manipulation. We covered about how Lear's views on society and also his mental health problems continue to contribute in a special way. And finally, we can really see just how much this will continue to impact others. Overall, I believe there's so many more ways we could delve into King Lear and these problems, but that would take us multiple episodes to go through. And maybe we will at one point, but for now, that's just a way of thinking of it. We're going to take a quick ad break. Thank you.
Thank you for listening, and make sure to subscribe using Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or whichever service you're using. As well, tune in at any time to find out our new podcast episodes and more. Thank you for listening, and have a great day, night, or even any time of day. We're available 24/7 every day of the week. Thank you.